We're just getting ready here for a few minutes. So those of you online, give the people in the room a few minutes to get ready for the meeting. Thanks. We can take our seats. We can probably get started since it's a weekday and we want to get people done on the summer. Ready to go, Cesar? Howdy all. So welcome to the second meeting of the 43rd session of the Faculty Senate of Texas A&M University. If you're attending the meeting virtually and need a reminder of the Zoom features used in our Senate meetings, the Zoom tip sheet can be found on our website at the top of the current agenda page. At this time, please make sure your microphone is muted. For those on Zoom, Secretary Holliday will be monitoring the Zoom raise hands function. You'll be called upon first before others in the room. She will verbally identify you, then you can unmute your mic and ask your question. In fairness to others, please limit yourself to one question at a time. Secretary Holliday will also be monitoring the chat to convey messages as necessary. So please send any chat questions directly to her. As always, we are using the registration function of Zoom to track attendance. Most visitors today have been asked to view the meeting via our live stream, but our guests and administrators who may be asked questions are joining us today either in person or on Zoom. Visitors wishing to address the Senate may make this request by sending a chat message to Secretary Holliday or by using the raise hand functions. Finally, if a speaker wishes to offer a motion during today's meeting, please raise your hand at the appropriate time and ask to be recognized. So at this time, we're going to start with speaker comments, and I will apologize ahead of time. They're a bit long given our current situation. So colleagues, as probably all of you are aware, Senate Bill 37 passed into law last month. As such, if the Board of Regents votes to approve the continued existence of Senates in the Texas A&M system, in September, the Senate will face the largest change it has had since its inception. How many senators it will have and who will serve is yet to be determined. I know how deeply this impacts all of you. Details on the process at the system level are still in development. What we do know is that the university administration recognizes that the Faculty Senate has been a valuable partner in guiding the success of this institution, and that there is a strong desire to see that continue. The Texas A&M system is working on an agenda item and process for the board to consider on its calendar this summer. Once this process is established, additional directions will be provided and conveyed to all members of this body. In the meantime, the recommendation to us is that the Senate revise their constitutions and bylaws to be in compliance with Senate Bill 37. The Senate leadership, executive committee, and parliamentarian, with support from Joe Penabon and the administration, have been working on these revisions, as well as a plan for approving these changes, provided the board votes approval of Senates. We are going to try to do this in a manner as consistent as we can with our operating procedures in the tight time frame we're going to have available to us. I fully understand the frustrations and concerns over the uncertainty and tight timelines we face. I ask your patience and understanding until the Senate knows more fully what we need to do. At the time we know what to do, it is likely we need to do a lot quickly. At this point, the approach the Senate is taking to changing our documents is to make the minimal number of changes required to bring them in compliance with Senate Bill 37. Some additional changes may be proposed simply to update the names of positions and offices that have been changed since the path forward. More extensive changes to our bylaws and Constitution are probably more appropriately left to any reseated Senate. For those of you who have proposed changes to the Constitution and bylaws, I'm collecting them for further consideration at the appropriate time. From what I've heard, there are two issues that appear to be most concerned to senators right now. The first is, of course, our size, which at 122 senators is double the number of 60 explicitly mentioned in Senate Bill 37. However, Senate Bill 37 does provide for our board to increase the number beyond this limit if they choose. Please be assured that concerns over the impact of decreasing the size of our Senate has been conveyed both to our university and to system administrators. There is a recognition that as the largest university in Texas, if any institution should be allowed to have a Senate larger than 60, it should be us. However, any exceptions to going over 60 will have to be based on the workload and productivity of the Senate as we have exhibited over the past years, and what work we need to entail moving forward. So thanks for all of you who took the time to complete the survey about what we do. It certainly helped document our efforts and the time we put into this enterprise. And if you haven't completed the survey, the link is still active, so please add your names to our spreadsheet. There is also concern over the processes by which appointed senators will be selected by the president. In all honesty, conversations with the administration on this topic have been very positive. They appreciate the need for faculty input into individuals who would be good senators, and our president has continued to emphasize strong communication and collaboration as the administration continues to engage with the Senate into helping develop that process. Obviously, this has been a topic of discussion among the EC, and I have received suggestions from more than one senator on this topic. My opinion is that as this selection is made by the president, whatever procedure is decided upon should probably be in some sort of university SAP and not as part of our Senate Constitution and bylaws, predominantly because I do not feel the president may feel they would be have to follow our guidelines. If you have suggestions, again, please let the Senate leadership or myself know. Senate Bill 37 also defines the representatives of the new faculty senate to be members of colleges or schools. So while we have historically included the libraries and Cutter and Galveston campuses as units, that is expected to change. The faculty senate is not, nor has ever been, a perfect body, nor have all on this campus seen its value. It has been viewed by some as a troublesome body, and by some as an ineffectual faculty voice, many times simultaneously. My obviously biased opinion is that as a whole, this Senate has provided a reasonable, rational, and informed voice on faculty opinion to the university and system administrators, as well as other stakeholder groups. Faculty will continue to be an important voice in the success of this university, regardless of the configuration of this Senate. The mandated changes to the Senate in no way guarantee that the faculty voice will be diminished. My belief is that over time, the absence or diminishment of a functional and supported faculty senate will harm this institution. faculty will simply find voice through other outlets that will be both less willing and less able to compromise and engage constructively with the administration. Like many of you, I have been involved in the Senate for a long time, and excuse me, and understanding my service to it will cease is difficult. I'm sure that many of you seen the same thing. I have also learned that many in this group are the usual suspects who are among the most service-oriented and engaged faculty on this campus. You are willing to give your time and energy to the university and its students in ways many other faculty are not. As you are among the most sought-after faculty to provide an informed and reasoned faculty voice on numerous questions, committees, working groups, etc., I suggest you continue to do that in whatever way you wish. While saddened, I fully understand why some of you may make the decision to choose not to participate in the Senate in the future, given the changes that are prescribed by the law. I hope this doesn't happen. Regardless of what happens to the Senate or your choice to participate in it, I hope everyone finds ways to continue your service to Texas A&M and its faculty and students in ways that you find both personally and professionally rewarding. Excuse me. While I am sure that some of you will want to comment on this, I request that we hold this conversation in committee of the whole so we can address many of the other items that are on our agenda today. And by the way, we often don't have a July meeting, but this is a really full one. The things that are on our agenda include approving our slate of August degree candidates for College Station Galveston campuses, much needed updates to the minimum syllabus requirements, and continuing our discussion of our code of conduct. You will also notice in the agenda that a week from today, we have a special Zoom-only meeting to discuss honorary degree candidates. Talk about that a little bit later. Again, I would encourage folks to bring your concerns of your constituents to the appropriate administrators. I know there's concerns of their new Howdy, Title II, so on and so forth. So if you have questions, concerns, bring them to administrators, or feel free to reach out to me. In case you don't know, there is an email address, speaker@tamu.edu, and that will work no matter who the speaker is in the future. In closing, I would just like to say, I know things are tough, both in higher education in the nation and in our state. So I thank everyone's continuing efforts to work for the good of our institution and our students. I would close by echoing our president's remarks about remembering the individuals in our state and in the Aggie family who have been impacted by the continuing flooding that our state has experienced. So with that, we'll move to the rest of the meeting, and I will call Jason Boyle, who I just lost his title. Give me 1 second. Compliance Officer, Compliance Officer 3, and he is going to talk to us about a topic of concern to many of us, which is GA 48.
Compliance Officer something or other is officially my new title. Can we put that in the minutes? Thank you. You don't take minutes? All right, perfect. Well, howdy, man. Over here. Man, I like everybody so far away, even though there's not very many people in here. This is an odd room setup, isn't it, for such a small crowd? So howdy, my name is Jason Boyle. With the Division of Risk Ethics and Compliance. You may recall back in November of 24, Governor Abbott issued Executive Order GA 48, and it has a number of items that I'll go through. How do you advance this? There we go. Has a number of items that we're going to go through. There's really 7 specific topics, 7 specific areas it addresses. And so we'll go through each of those and just give an overview of what was done and what is being implemented for those. What I did want to share is you may recall a link that was open, similar to what Dr. Klein just mentioned, a link that was open for people to give feedback. What I want all of you to know is that there were 200 lines of feedback in an Excel spreadsheet, just individual lines, rows, that were given in addition to 3 different memos, and we had several departments that gave some feedback as well, several different units that gave feedback. Myself and Dr. Johnson had the fortune of co-chairing the implementation committee. We shared all of that information up to the Office of General Counsel as they were working on their implementation plan. And then we also shared that with our committee as we were talking over months during the spring of 2025. So every single piece of information that was given, every single piece of feedback that was given was considered. I do hope that y'all understand that. I know it's an emotional topic. I know it's a challenging topic, but please understand that your voices were heard. They were very, 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 very much taken into consideration. We tried to address those as much as possible. Proud to say that we submitted the certification checklist on time. So we submitted this month the system, and so we are compliant with still some work to do, quite honestly. But yeah, it was a really amazing group. I'm going to share that at the end as well. We had a full listing of representatives from staff, faculty, researchers, deans, department heads. We tried to get a very comprehensive and representative group. And so, yeah, so without further ado, these are the 7 areas that were up there. Again, I'm going to go through them individually. I think it's important to remember that Executive Order GA 48 was issued with the idea of hardening state government, right? So really about protecting our people, our infrastructure, and our intellectual property. That's the core issue that we're trying to get to from impact by foreign adversaries. Let's be clear there as well. Let me go back real quick. Foreign adversaries are listed up here. I'm going to use the term foreign adversary nation and foreign adversaries are 2 different things. And so you'll see on here, Venezuelan politician Nicolas Maduro. His regime is considered a foreign adversary, but Venezuela is not a foreign adversary nation. Okay, so there aren't restrictions on traveling to Venezuela itself. Okay, so that's an important consideration. The other, what is it, 5 up there? Those are nations that do have some restrictions in terms of what kind of business and what we can do in terms of travel. Okay, so important clarification there. All right, I'm going to go fairly quickly through these in recognition of there will be questions. And I have a safe word that I've made eye contact with a couple of people in the room already, just in case. Yeah. If you hear the word cookie, it's not because I want a cookie. I need some help. So first item has to do with vendor certification, specifically from foreign adversary nations and from foreign adversaries in general. Much of what happens here has been happening in the background without our knowledge for a long time. We've had monitoring things in place through AggiBuy and through contract administration for a very, very long time related to high-risk, bless you, high-risk international collaborations, high-risk international work. And so what I think the takeaway from this that I would like y'all to take away is, number 1, contract agreements have been updated with the language that's necessary related to foreign adversary nations or entities. The RFP process, so if you're doing a request for proposals, a procurement process, those have also been updated. The only real call to action for you is going to come if you are purchasing anything outside of AggiBuy, or if you're using your credit card in particular, with a vendor that it is reasonable to assume might be affiliated with one of these foreign adversaries. You don't need to do it for Walmart. But if you are purchasing from a vendor who's located in North Korea, it's worth taking a couple of extra minutes to look at Vendor Verify in the SSO portal. I did look at it, and there's a link right there, and it's very, very easy to check. It's a really quick check. It'll take longer to put the information in than it will to get the information back. Okay. Item 2 is one I anticipate some questions coming. It has 2 elements, really. The first is that we cannot accept gifts from an entity associated with the foreign adversary. So that's item 1. Number 2 is no professional travel to a foreign adversary nation. Okay, so I understand that causes some angst. I understand there are questions about what is a gift. We have a website that we tried to put some FAQs and some information on, some guiding information on. What I will offer up is that if you do have specific questions about something, Aline Lovings is right here, and I know she's looking at me like, wait, you weren't supposed to say my name. The 2 of us within our office are very happy to work with you to try to get two answers, understanding that sometimes the answer is just, you're going to have to make a decision. We don't have all the context, and sometimes you're just going to have to make a decision. So as an example, I was contacted recently because we had an individual who has a former student who went to work. They're a Chinese citizen. They graduated, went to work at a university here in the States, and then started working for Wuhan University. And they send a gift every year to this individual, a personal gift every year around the Christmas holiday, right? So they send it to his personal address, and he asked, is this something I can continue to accept? What do I need to do with this? Do I have to discard it? Do I have to tell him to stop sending me these things? I can't tell you I have the straight black and white yes or no answers here, what you do, but we're happy to have that conversation to walk through you with how to make a decision regarding that. Okay. And now I'm sensing everyone's going to say, what was the outcome? So shouldn't have said anything. Cookie. So the no connection to a foreign adversary, that within the executive order, it specifically talks about the workforce application. We don't use the workforce application. And so the Office of General Counsel did broaden that to mean that we as employees, as state employees, need to attest that we don't have any current or ongoing connections to a foreign adversary. And so we have some attestations that have been worked into every single possible way that we could identify that the jobs are posted, people are onboarded, and people are hired. And it is quite complex. And unfortunately, they don't always talk to each other. Those systems don't always talk to each other. So the one thing that I will note is that some of you will likely have to attest to this multiple times. And it just has to do with the nature of how you are hired, or if you change positions and go to a different type of position. But these things, again, are going to be happening. It's within Huron. So I think for everybody in here, it's probably a pretty familiar process. It's going to roll out for all of us. And so it'll be something new that I have to learn as a staff member. I'm quite excited about that. The notification of personal travel. This has been another one that's been a real hot topic in our office, at least. GA 48 does not restrict personal travel to any of these nations. The only requirement, well, cookie again. The only requirement is one is a pre and post travel notification that's within Workday. And you simply go in, put in the dates, where you're going, and the purpose. You don't have to write a thesis about why you're going or a novel about why you're going, just going to visit family. That's it. That's fine. Personal travel permitted. Okay. The other piece of that is while abroad, and this is where I feel the arrows are going to start flying, is while abroad, for personal travel in one of these nations should not be conducting university business, right? So they restrict professional travel to these countries. And so they didn't leave a back door into getting around this by traveling personally. And now I can do all my email and work on presentations and make phone calls I want, meet with collaborators, right? So the idea being that if you're going for personal reasons, you're going for personal travel, not to conduct business, okay? The other thing to note is that the only way to capture folks on this is that everybody within Workday who is an active employee, because the executive order doesn't differentiate between me or a student employee who's part-time. The only way to capture everybody was anyone who is active in Workday is subject to this notification process. And so that does apply to GARs, GANTs, everybody else, GATs, student employees, which I understand that's going to be a challenge, but it does apply to student employees. And then obviously to us, for faculty who are on 9-month continuous employment, also applies in that situation, okay? All right, number 5. Critical infrastructure here has a pretty specific definition, right? So we're talking about telecommunications, wastewater treatment, water treatment systems. I see Ed just walked in, saw his cybersecurity systems. Anyone who is working on or has access to, we had to establish minimum qualifications, and it's a simple statement that's been uploaded into their position descriptions. There's also some background check requirements that are will be conducted by September. Those individuals who will have the background check done are being notified. The one little I mentioned earlier, we still have some work to do. One of the requirements within the order includes anyone who researches critical infrastructure. And so that's something that we're working with BPR right now to try to figure out how to capture that. It becomes a little more complicated, to be very, very honest. It's not as simple as, do you work on research critical infrastructure? That's not easily captured right now. So that's something that we're continuing to work with and try to figure out how to address. The other piece of it is contractors. The entities, the vendors who would have access to our critical infrastructure, primarily through facilities and utility services. We'll also have some with IT, of course, minimally, but those are working with contract administration to make sure that the right requirements are included. Reporting of foreign gifts, you don't need to worry about this, quite frankly. There is no call to action for you on this one. Aline has been handling this already with the Department of Education, so now she just reports the same thing to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So that was an easy one. And then the final one, it has to do with foreign talent recruitment programs, and it's another Huron attestation that you'll see. A disclosure within Huron just saying that I am not involved with the foreign talent recruitment program, particularly from a foreign adversary nation or one of the foreign adversaries, I should say. It'll be an annual disclosure, and then if anything, if you do get approached by a foreign talent recruitment program, to report that into Huron so that there's notification. I want to jump back to the gifts because I just realized as I said that out loud, I forgot to mention that if you are offered a gift by a foreign adversary, an entity associated with a foreign adversary, one of the requirements is to make that disclosure within Huron. And for the time being, right now, we're having to take as a conservative approach, I would say, maybe a little more conservative than we typically would, just in an effort to try to understand the scope. Like, how often are y'all actually being approached? How often are our employees being approached with offers of gifts from a foreign adversary? So for the time being, when you do have that, if you are approached and offered a gift, please disclose that in Huron as well. And then there we go. There's an amazing group of people. This committee worked so hard. I can't tell you how much I learned. There are things that I never knew about from a faculty on a research side, because I've been staff for 25 years. There was so much that we learned about, and really, really good conversations, and they really did advocate on behalf of everybody that they were representing. So, yeah, so there we go. What questions do we have? Seeing none, I'll leave.
So I have a question, Jason. I had a conversation with the department head. Apparently, there has been different information going out to different groups about whether people can be paid if they are in these countries. So could you address that question?
Yes, there was some information that was misinterpreted, and I think there was some guidance given that individuals who are blanket overarching traveling to one of these countries for personal reasons had to take leave without pay. That was an inaccurate interpretation, and so we've had clarification from OGC, and that has been spread around. Overarching, the requirement is to submit the travel notification. There will be situations that may have other leave requirements depending on the purpose of why you're going home, right? And so there may be FMLA or something like that involved, but HR would work with each individual based on that. But overarching, it's just the notification. Can still be paid as a full-time employee. He can still be paid. We can't be paying part-time employees for work done over there because they shouldn't be doing work. Yeah.
So I think Adam Kolosinski has his hand raised next.
Yeah, so I know you're not a decision maker here, but I'll ask this anyway. Actually, yeah. So there are a lot of faculty who conduct basic research, which is exempt under export controls, who actually have to travel to China to do their work. And the prohibition on professional travel to China has destroyed the research agenda of several faculty I know. Is there any hope at all that there might be a basic research exemption on that professional travel ban in the future?
Talking about my personal hope, or
Well, no, I mean,
So,
is there some way that we could, because when I read the executive order from Abbott, it doesn't seem like it's banning all professional travel to China. It seems like, to me, the way I read it, it's banning travel as a gift from, or accepting some government entity in China paying for my travel. But if I have my own budget, right, I'm not depending on the Chinese government to do my professional trip to China. It would, the way I read the executive order, that seems to be fine. As typical of our lawyers, they interpret everything because they want to cover their arrears as much as they can in the most broad way possible. So, is there any way we could somehow, is there someone we could lobby, someone we could talk to about this? I mean, are they aware that they've destroyed the research agenda of several faculty by doing this?
so a couple things I wanted to try to address, and I'll try to keep them in order here. In the executive order, I think the area you're talking about, it mentions can't accept gifts, including travel, but then it has a separate comment that says, and no travel for professional purposes. Elaine, am I correct here? Travel for professional purposes to a foreign adversary nation. It's
Well,
in
okay, I
item
can.
two in the order. So that question was raised as we were meeting as a committee, and we did have general counsel on our committee. We had a rep on our committee working with us. It's not a misinterpretation, I think is one. So OGC did hear us. They listened to us. They were very empathetic to the impact of all of these requirements, quite frankly, and work to make them as workable as possible. I understand your interpretation. However, we are going to rely on the general counsel interpretation for this. What I would offer up, as you are starting to realize and understand the impact of your situation, as you just discussed, I would share that with the VPR, share that with my office if you'd like, and we will continue having discussions about this. I can't say I'm personally optimistic of broad sweeping changes to the legislation or to the order as it's written right now. But we are taking that feedback and sharing it as broadly as possible, with the idea of continuing to advocate to the greatest extent possible.
I mean, all we would really need is a carve out for basic research. That's, well, anyway, thank you.
Yep, I understand.
Senator McGill has his hand raised next.
Yeah, I was wondering about, for years now, there's been a plant breeding symposium run by plant breeding students, and it's always been funded by Syngenta. It turns out everybody I've ever seen that came and talked, which was where the funds were used, was an American plant scientist researcher. But apparently now Syngenta is owned by China. Does that just wipe all that out?
I wouldn't say it wipes it all out. I would say to work with the Research Security and Export Controls Office, and let them walk that path with you to help make that decision. I know, I see his eyes. Yeah, I understand, Clint. I hear you.
Senator Sachs has his hand raised next.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to clarify what happens when one is going on personal travel and still wants to communicate with one's laboratory or with people one is teaching with or with students that have nothing to do with China. And I think, as Senator Kolosinski had mentioned, could be pure basic research. I understand that we can't use any Texas A&M resources to do so. That's okay. But I also understand that it would be considered a violation to even use a personal phone and connect to our colleagues or our students' personal phones to have discussions about our Texas A&M research, which has nothing to do with China and is basic research. while China I'm using as an example, it could be Iran, it could be any of these other countries that impact faculty who have family there. What is the nature of that? Am I correct that we can't do any of that?
Are you correct that, let me make sure I've understood the question correctly. So we have students, well, we have somebody who has traveled to a foreign adversary nation for personal travel. And you're asking, can I continue to communicate with them?
Or vice versa, if
Or
I'm
vice
a
versa?
PI and let's just say I'm an assistant professor who finally, after years, got a proposal funded, and now I can go visit my family in this country, but then I can't connect with my lab. Let's say if I go there for 3 weeks at all, even by personal phone to phone, and I have to sacrifice that since I'm
Right.
going. That's the question.
Right. So there's not anything that would say you can't make phone calls with or have communication with people who are located in one of these countries, right? The idea being that you're not conducting business while over there. You're not doing TAMU business while with somebody who is there. And I understand what I'm saying is confusing because it's hard to walk a very strange line here that I'm trying to help people figure out how to make decisions. So if someone is traveling over there for personal purposes, if you need to talk with them about what date they're going to be returning or something changes in the plans, I would say my first piece of advice is to recognize that traveling to these countries is now a higher scrutiny even than it was before. And so it may require more enhanced pre-planning and discussion prior to anybody leaving. I think that's the first piece of it. And so if needs change and you need to have a phone conversation, then you can still have phone conversations, but consider what you're discussing and the risk if that information were to be picked up on. I see Angie over here. But there's nothing that says you cannot have a phone conversation with somebody who's in China or North Korea or
Yes.
Iran.
Yes, I'm trying to be very specific about this. If, let's just say, I'll use the word young investigator who goes home after some time and still wants to keep their laboratory going, and a student has a question which he or she or they are totally happy to answer about an experiment that's going on in the lab that has nothing to do with collaborators in the country of concern. My understanding is that conversation is a conversation that cannot be had, even if it isn't through A&M resources, because it's business of A&M. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
So I believe our Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs may wish to make a comment to that.
Oh,
Thank you. It's my understanding that what they cannot do is use university IT resources, so no computer, no access in the network, no VPN, but that doesn't prohibit people from communicating through private methods of communication.
right. And I think, again, it's going to come down to this idea of conducting business, right? Doing A&M business. And that becomes difficult. I know.
I haven't been told that we cannot conduct business.
Yeah. And I think she said have not. Yeah.
That's what I've been told when I asked for the question, can I use my Gmail address or Gmail account to communicate with people in my lab? And
See Ed's face back there too. I think at that point so, okay, Ed, correct me when I say something stupid here because I'm not a tech person at all. But A&M servers, A&M technology have protections on it that Gmail does not. And so the idea of communicating A&M business on a personal account would remove even those protections. It would become even less secure than doing so via Outlook. So I would discourage that just in general, right? I'm looking at you. Yeah, okay.
but But my point was that you can send an email back and forth.
For personal reasons, yes, absolutely.
Not for personal reasons, even business. As long as you are not using the network. You can communicate with somebody in your lab using 2 Gmail accounts.
Not,
Yeah,
so I think the point that was made was that there's a difference between conducting business and using the technology separate. So treat it as two answers, if you will.
Right.
You're not supposed to use the technology. So you're not supposed to use your A&M Gmail account, your A&M email account, that kind of stuff. That is different, in the way I've heard it explained, that is different than saying you can't conduct business using non-A&M tools, but still conduct business. I've heard the explanation be made both ways. You're not supposed to use our hardware, software systems, and you're not supposed to conduct business while over there. Even using your kid's account or whatever,
right.
which you probably shouldn't do unless you want to share that with everybody in the world too. But
Right.
Well, I'm corrected here.
So
Thank you.
Senator Babs, is your question on this one or another one?
Yeah, this one, it's related. So, so the advice is that if a faculty member is gone for 2 months to China and their lab floods with 8 inches of water, the department head can't email them on a personal email address to tell them that their lab flooded.
I think I would work out prior to departure a communication plan that could include WhatsApp or phone call or whatever that may be for something like that to give a quick update. That would be a decision that you're going to have to make and go through a thoughtful process to be able to defend or to justify in case questioned. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what is the line? I mean, so technically the line we're treating is whether or not someone's in Workday, but there's vague lines about between students and not being paid and being paid, and when they end up in Workday and when they don't. So as long as a student isn't in Workday, are we basically saying that it's fine for them to be using email while traveling in those countries?
I would say no. If they're going to be doing anything, well, I'm trying to figure out a situation in which they're not in Workday but doing A&M business.
You mean like an undergrad working a research project in a lab?
They're not paid?
Lots of them aren't paid.
Okay. Yeah, I would say the same thing then. Yeah, if they're doing something related to A&M business and they're using resources for that, the only answer I can give right now is that should be discouraged. They shouldn't be doing that while in a foreign adversary nation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thank you for the clarification about Venezuela. I was actually informed the other way. So I will pass it on to my Venezuelan colleagues.
Senator Miranda had his hand raised next.
Thank you for the presentation. So my concern has to do with the personal reporting in Workday and remembering that current foreign adversary nation like China was an ally not too long ago. And allies like Japan were adversary nations not too long ago. This is a moving target, right? And you can imagine Britain being an adversary nation at some future time, though it may be hard to think of so now. So my issue has to do with this reporting of your personal travel and Workday. How long is it held there? 25, 50 years? Who gets to know about it? Is it a check mark against you that is used as an index of your reliability? My colleagues who are currently, who have family in current adversary nations, are concerned about these types of things. This is going into some dossier that is maintained for 50 years.
Right, I hear you. Again, I empathize with that concern. What I'll tell you, I don't actually know. Do you remember a time frame? I don't remember hearing a time frame for how long it is stored. As long as it's in the personal record, we do. Yeah, we'll get some clarification on that. I don't recall a time frame in terms of the storing of that. What I can tell you in terms of who can access it, it's limited to the Workday administrators who can actually get into it and the individual supervisor. So it is not something that is broadly available and easily accessed.
Would you be able to commit to informing individuals if somebody seeks out that information outside that immediate groups? Let's say, for example, the governor's office seeks out that information. Who in the last 25 years has been doing this?
Right. And I cannot commit to that. What I'll tell you is that we have an open records staff who works on all of those with the Office of General Counsel, and all of them are committed to only producing the information that is absolutely required. And so there will be questions about this, right, going forward, because it is relatively unprecedented. And so General Counsel will be making decisions and giving guidance based on their understanding. My understanding at the moment is there are some protections, some fairly significant protections on personal data. So it would be very, very limited what anybody could get at the moment, is my understanding, from an open record perspective.
So I think it would be very valuable for the faculty to have a good understanding of the scope of who has access to that information, and particularly how long. You know, we live in a state where you can own guns without records. You can own NFA items without records. You know, it seems very strange that you can do some things that are pretty dangerous without any records, but other things don't seem as dangerous and you're recorded.
Yeah, we'll get some clarity on the time frame, and I'll share that with you, Dr. Klein. Okay.
Senator Kolozinski has his hand raised again.
Yes, thank you. So I had a separate question, this time about research collaboration. So as you know, federal law exempts fundamental research from all export controls. And yet I've been hassled about collaborating with Chinese co-authors on projects that are fundamental research and don't rely on any confidential data. In fact, in one point, I had a project collaboration rejected, even though it was fundamental research and thereby exempted from all federal research controls. I appealed it and the appeal went through, so that's good. But I'm just wondering, why is your office subjecting fundamental research to such scrutiny, given that there is really no restriction at the federal level, or as far as I can tell, at the state level, legally in doing such research with Chinese or Iranian or whoever, Russian co-authors?
So I'm not a research expert, to be quite frank. That's coordinated through the Vice President of Research's office, the Research Security and Export Controls Office. The only thing I can recommend is to do exactly as you did when information comes back, and if you need to understand it, seek to understand, submit requests for clarification. The other thing I'll share is that AgriLife Research, TEAS, and A&M each have their own GA48 implementation committees, and we did not do a good job of coordinating from the get-go. And so that is something right now that we're trying to figure out how to bring ourselves into better coordination, because we have had some differing interpretations. But I'm glad to hear that you were given the exemption.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you that I didn't even know I could appeal at first. The person who rejected it didn't tell me that I could appeal. I found out separately that I could appeal, and then I did appeal. But it's like this information that you can appeal is rather hidden. And if I didn't know better, I would have suspected that it was deliberate. But anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, I just the degree to
I'll
which
share that.
over fundamental research where there's no secrets involved, nothing confidential, is rather, I mean, it has a chilling effect on our ability to do research, and it makes it harder to attract top scholars. So I don't know, if you would communicate that to the higher ups, I'd appreciate that.
I will do so.
Senator Sossin-Gahar, did you have a question? Your hand was raised earlier.
No, thank you. I think my question was answered.
Price College of Engineering. So one question that has come up frequently is for those who have family members who travel to China for work, for their work that's not university related, or for personal reasons, that's not something that we have to report, or do we have to report, or how does that work? So my understanding, it's just for the employees, students, everybody else affiliated with the university.
Correct.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Francisca Marini, College of Performance, Visualization and Fine Arts. So following up on what my colleague just said, when do you have a way of tracking if we're gonna lose people, like in recruitment, like some people may decide not to apply, both students and professors. So are you thinking about any ways of tracking possible missed opportunities? I know it's a little convoluted, but
But I do understand the question. I cannot say that we had time to stop to think about how to track something like that because we were on a pretty tight timeline just to get the mechanisms in place. But it is a good consideration for moving forward. I'm looking at Tim back there. He's ignoring the discussion.
thank you so much.
I think the provost office, it sounds like a good project for the provost office. He's smiling.
Okay. Hey, Frank.
Howdy, Frank Cicilli, College of Arts and Sciences. I should say, I know people have been approached about leaving A&M because of this.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm one of them, but it didn't work out. So I had a question. There's something about recruitment. So as a professional, I'm asked to write letters of recommendation. People ask me like letters of promotion. I'm asked about possible people to hire. Does that include, does that count as participating in recruitment?
Wait, does it count as what?
Okay, there's something about recruitment. One of the things there, which I guess is like people
Foreign
hiring. I understand that means that like say like the Chinese spy agency trying to recruit somebody, but considering the way that our lawyers do a maximalist interpretation of everything, if I was asked to write a letter of recommendation for someone who's applying for a job, say working for the Beijing Academy of Sciences, is that participating in recruitment?
No, the foreign talent recruitment programs are a specific thing identified by the Department of Commerce.
Okay, I see.
And so
it doesn't include writing letters.
No.
Advising.
No, this would be what's the one? I think it's called like Guiding Light or something like that. That is an entity of the Chinese government that is intended to recruit individuals to work on behalf of or with the Chinese government. So it's a pretty specific.
So
you would know you're being recruited, not.
But if I was asked to write a letter for something, that's not part of it.
Right.
Okay.
You can write a personal letter, yeah.
Well, professional letter.
A recommendation, yes.
No one gives a care.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Professional letter of recommendation for somebody, yes.
So Jason, I don't see any other hands raised, so thank you very much for taking time to answer our questions. I know it's been a concern of many faculty.
Yep, and I'll be back in touch with the clarifiers. All right, thank you.
So we will now move to approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the June 9th, 2025 meeting minutes found in attachment A? Anything, Sean? Hearing none, I declare the minutes approved as distributed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns on the July 14th consent agenda items?
By Senator Haney.
Senator Haney.
Yes, the request for a change of programs to the Maritime Business Administration degree, it should read MBAL instead of MBAA. Is that a correction that we can make now, or is there an entire process? Because that's listed incorrectly on the consent agenda.
I think that's just an editorial change, and we understand lots of changes happening in Galveston acronyms these days.
Yes, is that something we can consent to just change?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, excellent.
Any other concerns with the consent agenda? Hearing none, I declare these items approved. Yeah, which number were you asking about so we can double check that?
B129.
Yeah. So that is as it's listed in CARS.
Okay, it's just misprinted on the agenda.
Listed in cars.
That is how it's listed in CARS. So
Okay. The department,
that's how your college sent it.
okay.
So,
I will let the department head know that that's
yes.
in that way. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I presume you can fix it again. We understand everything's happening in Galveston.
Okay, no, I just had the department head drop by and he noticed that was incorrect. So I will pass that back along. Thank you.
We will now move on to committee reports. Does anyone have any questions or concerns with the Core Curriculum Council CCC annual report found in attachment C? Senator Klein.
Hi, Heather Klein, College of Arts and Sciences. Not a concern. I just want to make people aware if they open up attachment C and go towards the end of it, there's a little part that indicates that starting in fall of 26, Math 102 will be listed as a core curriculum math course via transfer credit only. So if your program has K-Math requirements where you specify any K-Math except certain math classes, this is one that you might consider including in that exception list. So just be aware that you would need to get those changes into your curriculum pretty soon because this is going to take effect starting fall of 26 if approved.
Thank you. Any other concerns? Hearing none, I declare the Core Curriculum Committee report approved as submitted. Now on to new business, and we have a bunch of student rules. Matt, before we move on, there was some discussion of one of the student rules. We're all good? Okay. I now call upon Senator Holliday to move approval of attachment D1.
I now call upon, I move approval of attachment D1, student rule 1.8, student registration.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of attachment D1, say aye. Or raise your hands. How many ayes do we have, Billy?
Well, now people are starting to take them. They're disappearing.
Oh. They all went up? Okay. Please put your hands down. All opposed, say no, or please raise your hand. Tammy, is that a no? Oh, there goes. Motion passes. I call upon Secretary Holliday to move approval of attachment D2.
I move approval of attachment D2, student rule 5.2, change of curriculum.
Any discussion?
I see nothing on online.
All in favor, please say aye and raise your hands. How are we doing on Zoom? You can lower your hands. All opposed, please say nay or raise your hands.
Nothing on Zoom, no hands raised.
Motion passes. I call upon Secretary Holliday to move approval of attachment D3.
I move approval of attachment D3, student rule 10.4, grading.
Any discussion?
See nothing on Zoom.
Adam, your hand went up for a second. Do you have a question?
No, I thought it was time to vote. Sorry.
Senator McGill, your hand went up for a second. Any questions? Okay. I don't think there's anybody else, right? Hearing none, no discussion, all in favor, you can now raise your hand and say aye.
Seven, 39. Holding steady at 39, raised hands. 40. 41.
Okay, I think we have it, right? Can you lower your hands? All opposed, you can raise them now and say nay. The motion passes. I call upon Secretary Holliday to move approval of attachment D4.
I move approval of attachment D4, student rule 12.6, 12.7, 12.10.2, scholastic deficiency probation.
Any discussion on this item? Anything?
Anyone on Zoom?
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye and raise your hands.
Forty, 41, 42. Where am I? Our study.
I think we're good. You can lower your hands. All opposed, please say nay or raise your hand again, or raise your hand.
Raised hands in the on Zoom.
Motion passes. I now call upon Secretary Holliday to move approval of attachment D5.
I move approval of attachment D5, student rule 14.1, degree requirements.
Any discussion on this item? Oh, we have a hand up. Is that Senator Burns?
I was too quick to the draw.
Hearing no more discussion, if you're in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
$39, 40, you've reached 40.
I believe you can put your hands down. All opposed, please say nay and raise your hand.
You have two hands still raised. Maybe one.
Senator Papu, do you have is that a no? Motion passes. I call upon Senator Holliday to move approval of attachment D6.
I move approval of attachment D6, student rule 14.2.1, degree requirements.
Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, our Senator, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Up to 40 and a couple of hearts.
Okay, thank you. All those opposed, you can lower your hands. All opposed, please raise your hand. I believe the motion passes. Okay. I call upon Secretary Holliday to move approval of attachment D7.
I move approval of attachment D7, Student Rule 14.5, again, degree requirements.
Any concerns about any discussion on this item?
Chat or hands raised?
All in favor, please raise your hand or send a heart up.
To 40, and again, a few hearts.
Okay, you can lower your hands. All opposed, please raise your hand.
No hands raised on Zoom.
The motion passes. Okay, so on to the one of the more fun things we had to do every year. So attachment D8 is our summer degree candidate count. Shelley, just move approval of
I
attachment.
move approval of our summer 2025 degree candidate count, attachment D8.
Any questions, concerns? Tammy, you have a question? All in favor, please raise your hands.
Oh, we got some celebratory ones, so that's fine. We're at 38. And some applause.
Okay. You can lower your hands. All opposed, please raise your hands. I guess we have just approved attachment D8, degree candidates. So the last item for approval, which is TAMU minimum syllabus requirements, proposed revisions. So just a few points to this. It was posted earlier. We haven't revised our minimum syllabus requirements for some time. What was posted was the syllabus template with the proposed changes. If we vote in favor of this amendment, several things are going to happen. One thing is the template will change. The second thing is we will bring the other minimum syllabus text that is on the website in line with the changes that are in the template. It was just easier just to make the changes in one place. The third thing that will happen is the COVID 2019 statement that has been on the website for a long time will be taken down that has been confusing everybody. So those are the things that have to do with the minimum syllabus requirement. And one of the reasons to make this is people in Galveston have had all sorts of issues with some of the language. The other thing is we're going to try to get it updated so that it can be moved in the simple syllabus and other things that are needing to happen as well. So that's the minimum syllabus requirement. So any discussion on the minimum syllabus requirement changes? Senator Bapst.
Aye. So I thought one of the great things was to see that the freedom of speech statement, which had so much contentious last time we talked about minimum syllabus requirements, had been moved to an optional statement at the end of the syllabus. I showed it to some of my colleagues and one asked, well, that looks great. I'd love to include that on my syllabus. Is it okay, since it's an optional statement, for me to remove one of the sentences if I include it on my syllabus? Does anyone know if that would be okay? If it's an optional statement, to edit the optional statement?
I think Senator Hill Price was shaking her head.
It's not okay to edit an optional statement?
Well, so I would say no, only because that particular statement has been vetted through our Title IX, but also through multiple committees at the university. And so if you edit it, then you might change the intent unintentionally or remove something that might need to be said if you're going to say that. So I would truly treat it as a package just to make sure that that person is covered. So I think if they want to remove a sentence, that's a conversation they should likely have, maybe even with the Title IX office or somebody at the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, because of all that was very, very carefully crafted. So we're putting it on as a statement. Here's an optional statement that was crafted by a lot of people. So if they want to say something else, I guess they could put something else on there, but that statement should be treated as a package.
So
and
it's
not
all or
edited.
nothing. Then I might suggest that that syllabus template might say that they're all or nothing. But I don't think that's specified on the syllabus.
Well, I think
guideline.
that what will happen, I guess because it'll be pre-populated in Canvas and in simple syllabus.
So is your motion, maybe I can clarify, so would you like a motion that would state that those statements need to be included in their entirety if they are?
What you do is, since it could be an editorial statement, because I don't think it necessarily, you're not changing the content of it. It might be just an editorial instruction that said, like we have editorial instructions elsewhere that simply says this statement should be included all intact, I guess.
I don't know. Okay, well, I mean, my question was answered. I don't know what to do about it, but thank you.
Senator Pugh, I believe, had his hand raised next.
Yes, sir. And my apologies to the speaker. I forgot to send these in a timely way, but on page 1, number 1 says remove the instructions associated with the text before the syllabus heading. That syllabus heading does not exist on page 2. And so if you were to follow the directions, you would never find syllabus. And so I think on the top of page 2, there needs to be a heading for syllabus. That would be one item. And the second item has to do with the same optional statement on First Amendment. And that is, there's a First Amendment website. And I would ask that we provide that link in that optional statement like we do on others. If we can make that link, it's an HTTPS firstamendment.tamu.edu. So those are two items that were, I think, missing that I picked up later that I would suggest we add.
Give us 1 second to find out. Senator Hill Price is going to the mic.
So I think the point he's making is that the instructions, again, this is an editorial part, are a little bit confusing because you're supposed to remove all the stuff that goes before the part on the second page where it says course. And so when it says syllabus, it's confusing because it doesn't show the header for course syllabus. So I think, again, that's something that could be editorially corrected as the guidance. Did I just explain that? So if you look at the directions, it says delete everything under or before syllabus. But what it's really talking about is delete everything before it says on the second page course title or course topic. So basically the first page and the first paragraph on the second page would be deleted because they're all instructions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so basically the instructions on what to delete need to be clarified so that people are deleting the correct things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Again, I think this is, we could say would be an editorial guidance because it's just changing that word to syllabus to before the actual syllabus starts.
Okay, and the second one was we needed to add, which link were you suggesting we repeat? Danny?
In the optional statement around the free speech, there's reference to the university's First Amendment website. And we typically hyperlink to those sites. That one's not hyperlinked to the firstamendment.tamu.edu site.
Would that be an editorial change too, Senator Hill Price? that we add the hyperlink to that website. Well, I believe, Danny, you're saying the last sentence that reads, students can learn more about the freedom of expression and free speech on our website about the First Amendment. And you simply want a link after that?
Please.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we could take that as an editorial suggestion.
Thank you.
Senator Frank Cannon has her hand raised.
Just a logistics kind of question. If passed today, are we expecting this to take effect for fall, this coming fall 25?
Yeah, it would take effect, but what I don't honestly know is I believe, I can't remember when, have the new Canvas syllabi or Canvas shells been populated already? Yes. So the answer would be it could take effect, but the Canvas shells have already been populated. So what the content for the fall syllabus is already there.
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the things we have always struggled with, this group getting ahead of the deployment of the syllabi templates. Senator Kolazinski has his hand raised.
Yeah, sorry about the delay there. Yeah, to Senator Haney's point about the free speech statement. So this is a minimum syllabus, and the free speech statement is optional. Now, my understanding is if it's a minimum syllabus, you can put stuff on the minimum you can put stuff on the syllabus that is not on the minimum syllabus requirements. Right? So it would seem to me that if you want to put your own statement on free speech, so long as it's consistent with university policy, you could put your own in there instead of the optional. I don't see why you couldn't, right? Because again, it's a minimum syllabus and the statement on free speech is optional. So,
yeah,
so as long as it's consistent with university policy, it would seem fine to me, no?
So I think agree with you, Adam. I think the kind of question was that there is a statement that was vetted. So what we probably don't want to do is modify that statement. If you wanted to have another statement, that would seem to be fine.
Right, but then someone could potentially take some of that statement and change it around, and then it becomes my own statement, right? So I don't know. I think I don't see how you could stop anyone from doing that, or there would be any inconsistency with university rules in doing that.
Senator Hill Price.
Well, the challenge is that because that has vetted, then if a faculty member uses that language in total, then they are protected because it has been vetted by the university, by the faculty, by everybody else to make sure that it's appropriate and within federal guidelines. So if someone law. So if you were to write your own, I would highly suggest that you get that vetted by someone else because you might put a statement on there that could be in violation unintentionally of university rules, Texas law, federal law, and create a lot of issues for the faculty member. And you definitely don't want to end up with a grade appeal or a student filing any kind of grievance or anything like that not out of ill intent, but just because you decided to use your own words, then there's a risk associated with that. So I would highly recommend getting somebody from like the Title IX office to review it or the CR.
So I agree with you. It's probably wise if you're going to put a statement to use that one, but yeah, it's not like you have to use that one. Okay, thank you.
Senator Marini, do you want to make a comment about your additional link to mental health resources?
Hi, Marini from PVFA. Yes, I made a comment in the document suggesting we have a general link to health services, but I was thinking it might be good to add another link that specifically goes to the mental health page. Also, to clarify the discussion we were just having, I, for example, add to my syllabus a welcome statement, which is very general. is clearly my own statement, doesn't need to be vetted or what?
No, these are simply minimum syllabus requirements, so faculty can put other things on the syllabus.
As long as it's clear that it's your
So, yeah.
language. Thank you.
So where did you wish to insert the mental health statement? I'm looking at your link, but I'm not.
I was thinking, yeah, maybe just right after or even in parentheses, like you have the general link to health services. I was thinking maybe if you want to put in parentheses, like this is the direct link to the mental health page.
So you could just change the hot link. That's because, and that link could change a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just got the words in there. So we don't need to change the requirements. We just need to change the hot link to the tab on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Forget
And
about
so
editing.
what you're reading, the rule would not have to change. Or
Yeah.
the syllabus requirements.
I think they're both good. I think you need both. So basically include both if possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
So are there any other discussions? So I'm going to try to state a motion here so we can, is everybody in favor of approving the minimum syllabus requirements with fixing the instructions a bit and adding the 2 links that have been suggested? That's a motion. Got a second? All in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. How are we doing, Shelley?
36 hands raised. I think we're.
Okay, you can lower your hands. All opposed, please raise your hands. Henry, are you raising it or are you lowering it? The motion passes. Thank you very much. So that takes us to the end of our new business. There are a couple informational items. The first has to do with the code of conduct, which is for the last time on our agenda for discussion only. And we will vote on it at our next meeting in August. Again, I really want to do this for the last meeting of the elected group Senate. So I know that there might be some comments. Before I turn it over to everyone, is Senator Rice available? I guess he is traveling today and was in parts of Colorado that did not have cell service. So, what? So Senator Haney, I think your hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Speaker Klein. Senator Rice does have some amendments to offer, as we have discussed. And so my concern was those amendments had not been a part of the agenda item linked here. And so the Senate should be aware of the proposed changes that Senator Rice will propose.
So Senator Haney, were you the one who offered some suggested textual changes to the some small text changes?
Yes, sir. The addition of the preamble and a couple of other small changes that Senator Rice assured me he would enter as amendments. Yeah. And so the linked document is not what will be presented. I'm just cautioning.
Yeah. So what will be added is the preamble, which was already discussed, and people suggested we make that part of the code of conduct. And all the suggested changes, I believe Galveston requested, will be made as an amendment. The other individual I'm aware of had some suggestions is Adam Kolozinski. So Senator Kolozinski, do you wish to say anything at this point in time?
Yes, I do. So Dale did address my concern. He attempted to. I don't think he succeeded. My concern has to do with statement item N, where we're giving examples of unprofessional conduct. And let me just pull up what it says. So So in section 5, subsection 2, paragraph N, it says pervasive or egregious derogatory or denigrating comments about other disciplines, schools of thought, paradigms, or scientific methods, particularly when such comments are intended to affect others' working conditions or academic freedom. So what Dale proposed was to take out the word particularly. So then if you take out the word particularly, then you say, okay, you can only, it's unprofessional to do these things when such comments are intended to affect others' working conditions and academic freedom. So in my view, personal attacks can affect academic freedom and working conditions. Attacking somebody's methodologies or schools of thought or even a discipline is not going to directly affect someone's academic freedom. And I see a big potential for abuse with this item N. The reason why is because unprofessional conduct is nowhere defined anywhere in the rules, but the rules reference unprofessional conduct. So I think it's likely that in the future, when administrators enforce rules in SAPs, they're going to rely on this list, most likely, at least it's likely they'll rely on this list to help define what unprofessional conduct is. So I have a fear that, it's like saying pervasive or egregious derogatory or denigrating comments. That's quite a subjective thing. Like when am I being derogatory about a school of thought? If I say, if I say Marxism is an ideology that always leads to mass murder, is that derogatory? I don't know. I mean, it's open to interpretation. And so I think, a lot of very bad ideas that have resulted in a lot of harm have started out as academic ideas, and harsh criticism of those ideas should be allowed under all circumstances. And while, if pervasive and egregious were well defined, it might be worthwhile putting something like this in, but it's not. And I think that the risk of shutting down vigorous criticism of methodologies, schools of thought, and even disciplines is bad, is dangerous. There was a time where psychiatry where lobotomy was considered a methodology in a school of thought, and it turned out to be extraordinarily harmful. And if somebody wanted to criticize lobotomy in harsh terms, would that be considered derogatory? I mean, I wouldn't want to discourage such criticism. So I really think we need to strike paragraph N. And I think another thing that this code of conduct lacks is a safe harbor provision for people who criticize methodologies, schools of thought, and the like. And so I have, I don't know, is this the time to propose amendments, or would this be at the next meeting?
We will take up amendments at the next meeting, but if you wish to get them to us, we can make them available as suggestions to people before we meet.
So, yeah, because the intent was to have, Price College of Engineering, this is a whole different one before, because the intent was to allow the committee that put this together as proposing it to the Senate to have that feedback so that they can make those adjustments before they submit the final version.
Okay, because I did send my proposed amendment to the committee already. So it appeared anywhere.
Senator Price, you had another comment?
Oh, I think the particularly word is fine to remove, but pervasive, especially of it's an adjective, especially of an unwelcome influence or physical effect spreading widely throughout an area or group of people. Egregious, outstandingly bad or shocking.
Sometimes it's important to say something shocking about a bad idea. And I certainly wouldn't want to be called unprofessional for saying something shocking about a bad idea.
Are there, Senator Haney has his hand raised, I believe.
Adam Haney, College of Marine Sciences, Maritime Studies, MSMS. Just for anybody who's wondering what our acronym is. If I may address one concern that Senator Kolosinski brought up, one of the things that I've been pretty insistent on is making sure that those decisions that may be made are reviewable or suggestible, or reminding people that the CAFRT exists and the Academic Freedom Council to review those. So Senator Kolosinski, you're not going to be just completely subjected to the whim of an administrator. And so by having that link back to a reviewable body of our peers, I think that might address some of your concerns. So I just wanted to point that out, that was one of the changes that Senator Rice has agreed to.
Thank you, Senator Haney. Senator Hill Price.
Right. And so that wasn't a change. That was always the intent of this. And that's part of the reason we have our, just to clarify, academic, the Freedom Council, we elected people to already. And that was intended to be included in that preamble to point out, right, that goes in part with that committee. But I think one of the parts of that particular discussion, and again, to Senator Kolosinski's point, yes, any of this, we could think that any line of this in a bad administrator might try to target someone specifically if they take something out of context or decide to interpret it. But that's what that council is supposed to do. And it's faculty members that are elected by faculty who would then be, in a sense, the adjudicators to protect faculty from the misuse of this. But I think one of the things in the particular line that Senator Kolosinski is talking about, and maybe it's taking away the part about the academic field, but talking about how it affects someone's working conditions. Because I could totally see that he would have a disagreement, or someone might have a disagreement about a different research field or a different topic. But if the comments make it where a person is unable to do their work, then that to me has crossed a line. And I think that's the intent of this, is to look at that, again, professional behavior. So maybe it's less about the comment about someone's field and trashing somebody's field as somebody trashes welding all the time. But if it makes it where I literally feel like I cannot do my job because this person is also a senior faculty who might be voting on me to go up for tenure or promotion or whatever, then it is truly problematic. And that's where someone else could use this as a guidance to intervene and say, look, this is not, we shouldn't assume that this is going to be used to penalize a faculty member, but to have a conversation about professional behavior and ways that you might address the concern in a more constructive manner.
Thank you, Senator Hill Price. Senator Miranda. You're muted, Rajesh.
Sorry about that. Too many buttons. I actually agree with Senator Kolosinski on this. I think I'm wondering if we cannot separate. The purpose of this is to protect other people's working conditions or academic freedom, right? But it doesn't have to remove somebody else's academic freedom by preventing them from criticizing disciplines. Could we just say that pervasive, egregious, derogatory or denigrating comments that affect others' working conditions or academic freedom?
We could. I would suggest any editorial changes. Our parliamentarian, Dale, has been the one who's handling that. So I would suggest you get those to Dale and feel free to have a conversation with them. I apologize he couldn't be here today. Senator Kolosinski, your hand was up.
Yeah. So usually when it comes to these sorts of things in law, there's a reasonable person standard. right? So if somebody, there are some people who have unreasonably thin skins and they fall to pieces under any kind of criticism. And so if you don't even have a reasonable person standard in there, that, that means that I could be disciplined for criticizing a discipline or criticizing a methodology in my department, and someone in my department does it. And that immediate, then just, they say, oh, my working conditions is now difficult because of this. I can see that used as a pretext to silence people very easily. At the end of the day, we are scholars. We need to have thick skins, and we shouldn't allow others' criticism of our work to affect us, to affect our working conditions, etc. We should be able to defend what we do, and we should be able to brush off criticism. And I think putting this example in here is in some ways infantilizing faculty, kind of making the presumption that, oh, I can't, I'm going to melt down because someone criticizes my methodology or my school of thought. I just don't see any good coming of this, frankly, which is why I really think we should delete it.
Thank you, Senator Kolozinski. We will take this up under advisement and voting next month. So again, I would suggest get as many editorial changes as you would like to myself, and I will share them as appropriate. Any other discussion about this informational item? Yeah, okay. We will eventually vote on it. So we will get that, please get them, Dale will get them to the committee, and a final version will come before us in August. So a couple other informational items. So next week, not only will we have 0 meetings in July, we're actually going to have 2. I hope it's going to be a short meeting, but we have a slate of honorary degree candidates coming before us in July. And for those of you who have not, slate, I hear the slate is 1. I was trying to be vague intentionally, but I've been told it's okay to say 1. We have 1 honorary degree candidate coming before us that we will evaluate. For those of you who've not been part of the honorary degree process before, because we've only had 1 in the past few years, what we will do is, this is the one and only time in my experience that we ever go into executive session, and only senators will be in the Zoom room. That's why we're doing it by Zoom. It's easier to ensure the confidentiality of the discussion. What will be shared sometime before the meeting begins and immediately be unshared after the end of the meeting is documentation regarding the candidate. This will be done either by Teams or SharePoint. I'm not a Microsoft person, so those subtleties know those, but it will not be downloadable, and everyone will be under their honor to not share this outside of the group. Because again, confidentiality around these degree candidates is really important. So we will meet next Monday at 3 p.m. on Zoom, okay? And we'll get additional information out later this week. So the last thing that is an informational item on the calendar is just the 2025-2026 faculty meeting calendar. We've gone over it to make sure we're not in hitting holidays and things like that. We needed to get this out because a number of other calendars across the university rely on this one. So that's the only other informational item I have. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. So now I'm going to turn Committee of the Whole over to Secretary Holliday. Normally it would go to James Howell. However, he and his wife just had a new baby, and so he's a little busy right now. So congratulate him, and we'll turn it over to Secretary Holliday.
I think he would like wishes of sleep, right? But so if anyone can send some wishes of sleep their direction. But I will take, committee of the whole. I do not see anything. This was an easy one. Thank you, guys. So, I now return the meeting to Speaker Klein.
Wow, that was short. Thank you, Secretary Holliday. Now move to adjourn. All in favor? Please rise. And I hope everybody gets some time off this summer.